Good morning for Tuesday, July 4th, 2017. Audible presents the New York Times Audio Digest. Here's what's making news on the front page. Court foils Trump over methane rule. Trump calls Xi with a warning on North Korea. And critics kick sand at Christie as standoff ends. In today's national headlines, California to President Trump, where are you? Congress aims to stop IRS collection of health tax, and is alcohol good for you? An industry-backed study seeks to find the answer. In today's business headlines, the Dow rose 129 points yesterday. Silicon Valley takes aim at sexual harassment. Luxury cars offer more models, but sales still fall. And when vanilla won't do, how about a red velvet Oreo? There will be more business stories, more national and world news, a roundup from the sports page, and New York Times columnist David Brooks. Now, as selected by the editors of the New York Times, here are the stories on today's front page. The top stories written from Washington: Court foils Trump over methane rule. Reported by Lisa Friedman. Dealing a legal blow to the Trump administration, a federal appeals court ruled on Monday that the Environmental Protection Agency cannot suspend an Obama-era rule to restrict methane emissions from new oil and gas wells. The 2-1 decision from the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit is a legal setback for Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator. The ruling signals that the Trump administration's efforts to simply suspend environmental and public health actions are likely to face an uphill battle in the courts. A number of other Trump administration actions to undo regulations it inherited are likely to receive scrutiny from the courts. Pruitt had imposed a 90-day moratorium, which he later extended to 2 years, on enforcement of parts of the EPA methane regulation. He also had argued that his action was not subject to court review. But the appeals court ruled that the EPA did not have authority under the Clean Air Act to block the rule. The judges said the agency had the right to reverse the methane regulations, but would have to undertake a new rule-making process to undo the regulation. Critics say the Trump administration has improperly delayed other regulations as well, and have challenged a May EPA decision to suspend for 90 days a rule aimed at cutting methane emissions from landfills. The Interior Department also delayed for 2 years a set of rules that would have limited the release of methane from wells on federal and tribal lands. An attempt to reverse the rule in Congress failed when Senator John McCain, a Republican from Arizona, and 2 other Republicans voted against nullifying the regulation. The administration has also used the delay tactic to stop a Food and Drug Administration rule requiring restaurants to list the calories in the food they sell, and a Department of Labor regulation mandating that financial advisors put consumers' best interests ahead of their own. The EPA has been in the vanguard of the administration's attempts to dismantle what Trump and his advisors consider an oppressive regulatory state. Monday's court ruling signals this will not be accomplished overnight. The administration has had some success in delaying or reversing President Barack Obama's climate change and environmental policies, but other actions face serious legal hurdles. After the EPA allowed farmers to use a pesticide called chlorpyrifos that has been found to harm children's brains, California and 6 other states challenged the decision. And the effort to reverse the Clean Power Plan regulation on power plant carbon emissions could take years. David Doniger, director of the Climate and Clean Air Program at the Natural Resources Defense Council, said he believes the administration would be on the losing end of those battles. This is the first of what we hope will be many court setbacks for Scott Pruitt, whose devotion to the law is rhetorical and not real, he said. This is the second story on today's front page. Trump calls Xi with a warning on North Korea. Reported by Mark Landler and Javier Hernandez. President Trump, frustrated by China's unwillingness to lean on North Korea, has told the Chinese leader that the United States is prepared to act on its own in pressuring the government in Pyongyang, according to senior administration officials. Trump's warning, delivered in a phone call on Sunday to President Xi Jinping, came after a flurry of actions by the United States, selling weapons to Taiwan, threatening trade sanctions, and branding China for human trafficking, that rankled the Chinese and left little doubt that the honeymoon between the two leaders was over. American officials, who would not be named talking about the continuing dialogue with the Chinese, said they hoped the tough measures would prompt Xi to reconsider his reluctance to press the North. But Trump, one official said, has fewer illusions that China will radically change its approach to North Korea. That leaves Trump in a familiar bind on North Korea as he prepares to leave for a Group of 20 meeting this week in Germany, where he will meet Xi as well as the leaders of Japan and South Korea, nations Trump has also turned to in navigating his approach to the North. Without the full weight of China, pressure tactics are unlikely to force North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un to change course. Yet, diplomatic engagement is not a step that Trump is ready to consider after the